أعوذ بالله من شر الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I just wanted to begin by welcoming each and every one of you to this edition of our interactive podcast. We are joined with Seyed Hadi Yassin from the Bay Area, alhamdulillah. And he is not just a resident alim of a center and one who has been trained as a classical religious scholar, but in addition to that, he is also someone who has studied psychology, and he also spends a portion of his time counseling people and helping people from that perspective. So he is very, very well versed in regards to both of these aspects. Sayyid Hadi Yassin, salamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Sayyid, one of the things that we do is we just try to kind of break the ice a little bit. So I just wanted to begin. If you could share a funny experience, a funny story that you had, either when you came to the US or when you were in the Hosa, something.
Just one?
just one. Just one is enough for now.
Yeah. Actually, you reminded me of by this question of a funny story. You know, the first time I came and I was, around the family, and I heard about the term baby shower, right? I didn't know the baby shower before. And then the first question I asked the family is like, why are you gonna, take the baby to the shower and you're gonna do it in front of everyone? Why are you gonna have a party to do that? And then they had to explain the baby shower is not really shower. It's just, it's a party for certain reasons that they have. It was very informative and very embarrassing for me for asking that question at the moment. That was something that I never forget what I asked.
Right. A lot of times we have these kinds of things where there's a name for something like a baby shower, and then you
Yeah,
think, who named this? Who gave it that name, right? Who was the one who actually called it that? And then what was the reason behind it?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I tried to think about it logically. I'm like, so baby shower, they take the baby to the shower, but it was not true.
Already said, could you also begin by introducing yourself so the audience gets to know you a little bit better? What you do, where you studied, your main focus, both in terms of the Hosa as well as afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm going to be humble, but because you asked, so I have to go to the details. Well, I'm originally from Iran, Mashhad, and I've been studying Hausa over there in Mashhad. So I've been in Mashhad, Mashhad's Hausa for 12 to 13 years studying there. And at the same time that I was in Hausa, I was at the university as well. Got my bachelor's degree in two different bachelors, Quranic sciences and traditions, and also the fundamental of Islamic jurisprudence and fiqh. So different route and different, parts and sections of Hausa I was focusing on, mostly on aqaid and the beliefs and the fiqh as well. But it was always in my mind that I need to take another route as well at the same time. So when I came to the US 2009, I started my education in psychology slash with the emphasis of child development from a master's degree. So it was a great intensive and very educational time for me that I've learned from very educated people in the university here. At the same time, at that time, I remember I focused on children with the special needs, specifically autism. I worked 2 to 3 years, I believe, as a special coordinator and instructor and supervisors in one of the uh, companies for mental health services that we had in Southern California. And for my doctor's degree, I focused on it is in clinical psychology, and yeah, and I focused on that. So it's a combination of you know child development, clinical psychologists, and kind of I tried to uh, have a comprehensive education regarding the whole family because the family was matter to me, different components of family.
And was there something that caused this? I mean, did you see a need in the society that you were living in? Was there some catalyst that caused you to go in this direction and to focus on the subject?
You mean psychology?
Yes.
Yes, to be honest, so one of the reasons it was when I was studying Hausa and then university in over there, Islamic education, I was always thinking that, and I still believe that as scholars, they need to have an extra professional expertise as well in different routes, in economy, in psychology, sociology, anything in math, whatever it's their passion, it's what they like, is what it's interesting to them, and the need of the society. So it was always in my mind that I need something. To be honest, first I took the route of law, international law, and I wanted to go there. I was so crazy about it. I want to go study international law, and I actually got all the books when I was in my bachelor's degree. After Jose bachelor's degree, still studying. The Islamic education as well. Then I got all the books. I wanted to be ready to go to the masters of international law. I still remember saying that one day I was in the university. I was in the library, and I saw one of the graduate students in law, and he was having all the books around him so nicely. He was studying this law and that law. And I was sitting in front of him. That was my dream. I want that. Then I look at him. I was like, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm memorizing all this, laws and policies." All of a sudden, I just dislike it so much. No offense to the law, students. So I just personally, I'm like, "You're spending all this time, for memorizing these things." I all of a sudden didn't like it anymore. Then the second choice for me was that what expert ideas and an opinion you want to take were out actually. I needed to study research. I couldn't find anything more dear to me, which resonated with my personality than psychology. So since then, I got very, very interested in this field. And I started, I think it was 2007, 6 or 7. I started taking that route, studying about it. Was very interested in that. Like I said, it's a combination of my own interest, what I like, and the research that I found. However, as a scholar, that was a personal section. As a scholar, I found it very, very crucial for the communities. Of course, at that time, it was less experience. I had less experience, but I found it how much I need, how much people need, how much people around me they need. That's why I found it very, very great combination for Islamic, studies and as a job of and a scholar.
It does seem to be a very natural fit. I know that many times, whether they study psychology or counseling professionally or not, scholars are asked to do those things anyways, whether they are qualified or not. I think sometimes it ends up, it works out. Maybe the person maybe gains the experience, he has the personality, and other times it may not work out so well. The person is not going to be that qualified, but definitely there is a natural fit here that it does work together.
Exactly. You're right. Scholars are the source of advice for people. People come to them, ask them about their questions. And another reason is that they can trust it. They trust the scholars. That's why they come to them. But I believe, that's great. We respect scholars. It's great that they have, alhamdulillah, they have this position. But I believe if we add that specific academic knowledge into the vast amount of knowledge that they have about Islam, it's going to help a lot, because sometimes, some points, it's not all about just simple, religious advice. You need to focus on other important physical, mental aspects in order to be able to guide someone. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Let's inshallah begin with this discussion. And I think the discussion, the focus of it, in light of what you studied, in light of your specialty, is we wanted to really focus on this idea of mental health. And, especially the past, I would say 1 or 2 years, I've seen this term being thrown out all over the place. It's very common both amongst Muslim circles, non-Muslim circles. There's a lot of talk about mental health. And so, inshallah, I wanted to begin here by really asking you, could you define mental health? What does it actually mean? And inshallah, from there, what are some of the factors that lead to the negative aspects of mental health, and what are some of the factors that lead to the positive aspects of mental health?
Good. Let me set a rule here with you, because we're going to have a good discussion, inshallah. I'm having issue with this terminology of positive and negative. You know, we're going to talk about it and why. Why you're segregating everything into positive and negative. What does it even mean positive? What does it mean negative, right? So if I want to just go overall, give you a definition of mental health, I would say, you know, very simply, it's a psychological, you know, psychological well-being, status of psychological well-being that someone can have, which help them into being, having a proper function, you know, every day, which can lead to being productive every day, having healthy relationship, being able to work properly, you know. And also it's important to mention that when it's a time of adversity and issue, they can cope with the problems that comes to their lives. So then there's a combination of the status of mental well-being, right, psychological well-being, that can help the person to function properly every day. As normal, you know, going to work, having whatever they do, holding the relationship with different people, friendship, marriage, whatever they have, and also be able to cope with the adversities and calamities that happen to their life.
So it's a state of mind then, if we can define it, it's a state of mind with these aspects that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It is, definitely.
All right. Now, one of the things that I was trying to figure out, and this has been a question for me, is that, is there a link between mental health and spiritual health? Is there, or is there a division? You know, because some people will say, no, it's a physical body, it's the physical mind, and there is really no connection between that aspect of mental health and spiritual health. What would you say in regards to this?
Well, that's a very good question. Many people have this question. Let me tell you what. So are you talking about mental health, or are you talking about mental illness?
Mental health.
Mental health. Okay. So here's the point. When we talk about mental health, we have to look at different aspects of it. We have to look at the physical aspects, biological aspects, brain development. All these aspects are the factors related to mental health, because if we divide mental health to, or mental illnesses to, some issues, some problems, some of the sicknesses that we all know, for example, depression, anxiety, OCD, blah, 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 go all the way, schizophrenia, all these things that we know, sometimes the roots of them are biological. Sometimes the roots of them comes with you know, it's just genetic, comes to that person. We cannot ignore these points. You know, we cannot just go to people and says, oh, the reason that you have this mental issue is because spiritually you are not in a good status, which it will cause more problem for them, right? That's where it comes. I said we need to have experts to be able to define it. Is it really because lack of iman? Is it because lack of, you know, connection with Allah? Or no, it's just because the whole family, they have schizophrenia, so that's why they have it as well, you know?
You know, Seyed, this is actually something very common that, you know, whenever someone is suffering from depression, you know, typically people will look at them as if they have a weakness of iman. It's like, do du'as, read more Quran, you'll be fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Not having enough tawakkul on Allah, you know, you have to rely on Allah, everything's gonna be fine. No. I can tell you when a scholar can be depressed because of certain things, you know, we're going to talk about it in details. However, if they go out of the scope of biological and physical aspects of it, which is a different, totally different sections of the problem, mental health is a spiritual health. What do we mean by that? You know, the Arabic term for psychology is ilmun nafs. The knowledge of nafs. What is knowledge of nafs? Let's go nafs with ruh, for example, here, right? The knowledge that is related to your ruh, to your soul, okay? So what is psychology? What are we talking about? Are we talking about the brain? What do you mean the brain produces, you know, behavior? The brain doesn't produce behavior. There's something, as Muslims would believe, right? There is that soul within you that is the engine behind everything. So the connection between mental health and soul is that however is the level of the health of your soul is the level of your psychological mental health. Do you get my point? So therefore, if there's some issue and illnesses with my soul, in my soul, it's going to affect my behavior. It's going to affect my body as well. It's going to affect my everything in life, right? The way that I interact with others as well. And so what are the mental what are then the spiritual illnesses and the spiritual health is that we define whatever affects our soul from the spiritual perspective. That it goes to the list of whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the creator is telling us. Get away from lying, get away from backbiting, get away. So I can tell you, if you go to all those muharramat and forbiddens that we have in Islam, there are psychological reasons behind them, specifically the social ones. It's just interactions.
Just to be clear here, you're separating the biochemical from this category, right? So we're putting that aside, saying that it is possible to have that biochemical cause for depression. But what you're doing is you're putting that aside right now, and we're just dealing with the spiritual aspect of, okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about, someone who, from the expert's opinion or professionally, doesn't have any physical issue, any problem here in terms of, as you are putting biochemical issues, right? The brain development issues, none of these things, right? It's just a matter of, we're going to talk about the lifestyle of this person, how they live in this world, what kind of things are important for them. Then that's the moment that the spiritual health will come forward and would help them a lot. And we have a lot of examples, by the way. So I define mental health as one of the portion, be able to cope with adversity and problems, right? So you see here, if you go back to Ahlul Bayt, if you go back to the those figures in the sky of Islam that there are big names, right, such as Ahlul Bayt, you see that in the middle of the bala and calamity and issues, they didn't lose their mental health. How come? It's impossible for ordinary people to go through this bala and be fine. The best example is Karbala, right? The biggest musibah that ever happened. Here's the point. You see that, for example, what happened to Imam Hussein, right? The biggest musibah, what happened is that according to psychology, loss of loved ones has the highest level of emotional hits for a person. If we categorize it, losing job, financial issues, losing loved ones have the highest emotional hit. We see that Imam Hussein himself, Sayyid Zainab in Karbala, she lost 17 members of her family, right? Family members. But in the palace of Yazid or Ibn Ziyad, she says, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. According to psychology, she shouldn't be able to function after that. But we see that power, that self-esteem, that mental health comes from somewhere. You see what I mean? That's the spiritual point that we cannot define it according to psychology, that, how she's putting everything together. So that's why I think that's the point, that mental health is linked to spiritual health and the power from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Now, Sayyid, this was a really beautiful point, and it actually jogged my memory in regards to something that oftentimes when we think of mental health, especially in the Western context, we think of a lack of stress, right? So oftentimes when we think of someone who has good mental health, we think that it's an individual who is, on a vacation in Hawaii somewhere, he's relaxing, he's having a great time. He doesn't really have that many difficulties in his day-to-day lives. But the question I want to ask you from the Islamic perspective, does, for example, anxiety, right, stress, things like that, can that have a positive effect on our lives overall?
Amazing question. Absolutely. Let me ask you this. Is it possible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates something within us that is not useful?
No, everything will have a purpose.
Everything has purpose. Even jealousy that looks so horrible, right? Even to that extent, that from that aspect, if you go to envy, or to that aspects that can help me to compete with someone in a healthy competition that I don't want them to not have it, I want to have it, right? Might have some benefits. Anger. What is worse than anger if someone gets angry, right? Anger has its own benefits. Sometimes you need to get angry to be able to defend yourself. So yes, definitely there are benefits in anxiety and any other issues. Let me tell you what. How do you define pain? I'm going to ask you. Do you think pain is good or bad? If you don't have pain, because the pain is an alarm, pain is a signal that tells you, hey, you need to pay attention to your head is for example, God forbid, hurting, right? The pain is a signal. Imagine medically they're saying, if there's no pain, the person would not know and understand, something is wrong with them. They need to change something. You need to change your diet. You need to change your lifestyle. You need to do something, right? So the pain is something good. However, the same thing, right? When it comes to anxiety, if I'm having anxiety, if I have a stressor in my life, I can look at it positively as saying that, okay, this is something that is telling me I need to change something in my life. Rather than just be so negative, or something is wrong with me, yes, something I need to work on and change. If someone gets depressed, by the way, it depends on the level. We talk about it. Sometimes it's so severe, it's not, the person cannot even think about anything, right? We're talking about a normal level. Let's stay with that. Because if it goes to severe mental disabilities, we're talking about totally different spectrum. Okay, so we're talking about medical issue, we're talking about taking medication, and it's totally different. We're going to talk about it if we have time. However, the person thinks about it, okay, for some reason, I have continuous feeling of sadness, lack of worthiness. I need to look at myself, what brought me into this? To be honest, it's a kind of self-reflection. That it helps you, muhasaba in Islam, right? It helps you to look back at yourself. Why, according to Islamic regulation, says every night before you go to sleep, for example, recommendation, take a look at yourself, your amal, do muhasaba, what you did, right? If you do something wrong against the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mentally you might be upset. If you're in a healthy spiritual status, by the way. If someone is past that, is sick spiritually, they don't even feel it, right? But if you're in a healthy level, you can feel it. Therefore, if I have anxiety, depression, anything else, OCD, anything else, I take a look at myself to the normal level, by the way. I'll look at myself and says, okay, what do I need to change? Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Now, with this in mind, one of the things that I was just thinking about is, in spite of us knowing this, so we know, okay, that in our day-to-day lives, issues are going to come up, we're going to face problems. And within, a normal range, these things are good for us. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are feeling just overwhelmed. There's just so many things that they're dealing with. And I just wanted to ask you that when it comes to things, very severe things, for example, someone might have a terminally ill relative, terminally ill family member, right? Chronic illnesses in children dealing with these issues, financial issues where you can't really make ends meet. As Muslims, how do we best face these kinds of situations?
My approach always is about putting Islamic and spiritual advices and points with academic advices as well. The combination of both. Let's not segregate them. To be honest, the root of everything, of course, goes to Islamic recommendations. However, I don't want to segregate them. In my sessions with clients as well, I have this combination of advices, right? So therefore, we might be shared with non-Muslims if they want to take any of these advices. Because when we talk about Islamic advices, what do we say? Just go pray 5 times a day so you cope with this. This is one aspect of it, right? But Islamic advices is not just about Islamic rituals. It's about the perspective that you mentioned as well. So that can be useful for anyone, even non-Muslims. Okay, so here's the point. If there's any specific issue and problem in someone's life, my first advice is acceptance. You need to accept it. If someone, God forbid, is sick, you need to accept it. If someone, God forbid, passed away, if something happened before you fight with it, you need to acknowledge it. That happened in my life. And give yourself the chance to talk about your feelings. I'm so upset about it. I'm so frustrated. I wish that didn't happen, but it happened. Now this is the reality. The majority of issue I find with people it's about fighting with themselves. It's about fighting with themselves. Do you get my point? They are always upset with themselves. They want to always, I shouldn't have done that. Why this happened? Why that is happening, right? Always fighting with themselves. Rather than that, accept the reality that this happens. Second, analyze the situation. I'm going to go to Islamic part as well that you mentioned. Second is about analyze the situation. Is there anything you can do? Is there anything you can help the person? How you can help the person? Is there anything else you didn't do that you should do regarding yourself or someone else? My loved one is for example, God forbid, is feeling ill. What else can you do? Oh, I need to take him to this doctor, to that doctor. I need to make sure that, is there anything else you can did everything. Then accept it. You did everything, right? There's nothing else that you should fight with. The reality. So when you see if there's anything left that you should do, then that's the moment. Yes, I need to do this, I need to do that, until you get to the status, the rest is in the hands of Allah. There's nothing else I can do. I got the medicine, I got to the doctor, the shafa comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Allah is the one who will cure people and heal the people in reality. So, however, my perspective towards why these things happen can be in a spiritual perspective. I'm not fighting with the realities. I'm not fighting with Allah that why did you do that to me? I know that everything that happens in my life, there's hikmah and wisdom and reason behind this. I know everything is in order. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to be in this situation, that's what I should be in this situation. Again, go back to history of Islam. Imam Hussein, Ahlul Bayt, right? They never complained. They never say, Ya Allah, I'm Imam Hussein. Why are you testing me this way? Right? There's never no why. There's never questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yusuf, he's a teenager in the middle of the well, right? He never says, couldn't you just test me in just like on the earth? Why should you go all the way, in the well? He doesn't question. He's just so submitted. When you have this submission, when you're a Muslim submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't have mental pressure that why this is happening. Versus opposite of that. Let me tell you what. Say. You mentioned a loved one is ill, right? Is sick. Okay, let me fight with God. Why are you doing this? Is this something wrong with me? I'm not changing the reality, am I?
No.
What am I doing? I'm putting mental pressure on myself. By fighting with Allah, by going God forbidden against, rather than accepting it. When I accept that this is what it happens, whatever for some reasons, then I need to strengthen my connection with the source of hikmah and wisdom. If I want to strengthen the source, is about believing in it, is about praying, is about dua, then I go to the path of the power of the dua, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one, yes, that He can change things. He's the one who can do the miracle for sure. It's not all about what doctor says. It's about, yes, it is possible that I take the logical steps and also, all of a sudden my loved one get better,
Yeah,
so that's where it comes that to put the pressure or you take the pressure away.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful point, Seyed. It was, just when you speak to people, a lot of times there is a sense of entitlement, I think, that, because somebody may be praying their 5 daily prayers or they fast during the month of Ramadan, there is this expectation that my life, every aspect of it is going to go perfect. And so there's this sense that whenever something goes wrong, especially when it's severe and, it seems as if it cannot be fixed. For example, someone becomes terminally ill, right? And the doctors are saying, look, this individual is going to pass away. And the chances are very high they're going to pass away. I think there is a sense of people looking at God and saying, God, why did you do this to me? I was a good servant of yours. And again, a lot of this, then obviously that will lead us to a state of depression, because now not only do you have this difficult situation you're dealing with, but now you're also angry at God. You're blaming God that why did you do this to me? So not only are you, you're dealing with that situation, but now you've cut off the source of your support.
Exactly.
And I think that perspective is really important, that if someone can have that proper perspective of why bad things happen to good people, right? We understand that. We also understand that at the end of the day, Allah has a wisdom in relation to the things which are happening to us.
Okay, so because I'm a good person, because I pray all the time, and my family are all scholars, let's say, all urafa and so close to Allah. So no one from us should die. No one from us should get sick because we have a shield of iman, so the coronavirus would not enter our body, right? So what do you mean by that? So we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He put a chain of logical, rules and policies in this universe. And He Himself is following those rules as well. Matter of fact, I have a client, and yesterday, a few days ago, I was talking to him. Their daughter she has huge mental disabilities and issues and a lot psychiatric to the very, very difficult, level. When we're talking to each other, the father started crying, I don't know what else to do with this daughter. Everything we can do, we do. And now the discussion of God came forward. And I was talking to him about this, that there are some rules and policies in this universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He follows those rules unless there's a moment of exception, such as mu'jiza and miracle, right? If I put my finger to the fire, it's going to burn.
Yeah.
That's it, right? If there are genetic reasons behind someone's mental illness and issues, that's going to come probably to the next generation. That's it. And I told him, imagine if God wants to come and put his hands all the time, says, okay, you brother, you're not going to get sick, right? Brother, you're not going to sick. And you as a doctor, what would you say? Okay, what are we supposed to do? In a hospital says, okay, where's the hands of God? Here, so go home. You don't have the hands of God, come here. You know, they're so messy that no one can help anyone, right? So therefore, the rules that we put. However, it's tough. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he lost his son Ibrahim, he started crying. According to tradition, right? He cried. Someone came and says, "Oh, Prophet, are you crying as well for the death of your son?" I says, "Woe to you, of course, because I love him. But I don't say anything against the hikmah of Allah to be kufr and to be disbelievers." You see how Rasulullah is putting it? He said, emotionally, I'm upset. Remember what I said? Except that I'm upset emotionally. Emotionally, I lost the loved ones, Rasulullah said, but I'm not going to go say something that is not true against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Sayyid, somebody asked a question, and I wanted to interject here, and this is a really good question. It's that classic question that is asked. And the question is that how do you know if what you are experiencing is something that you should accept, meaning that it's a test that you need to pass, rather than it's a result of sins, meaning that sometimes the bad things that happen to us is a test, right? Other times, no, we committed certain sins, and so now it's a punishment. How do we know which one it is, and does it make a difference?
Well, I don't think the result is different, because if I'm doing something wrong, I need to stop doing it. Before I says, okay, so it's not the sins issue, so I don't have to change myself. No. First and foremost, if I know that there's something wrong with me, that I'm suspicious about myself, because God forbid someone doesn't pray, someone doesn't do anything, so it might be the result of that. Well, take advantage of it and look at it. Maybe you need to fix that issue. Okay. However, I think the outcome from the psychological perspective doesn't matter. It actually gives you a perspective to look at yourself, to correct yourself better. I'll look at myself. So if it's not the sins issue, what is it? Is it any other reasons? I had someone came to me, say that he complained that I take every jobs. In the last 2 months, I took 3 jobs and I've been fired. Where is God? Why he's doing this? I'm like, why are you blaming God? Tell me what happened. He said, yes, my supervisors, they're not nice to me and I have to fight with them. I says, Bismillah, I got the answer, right? Why are you fighting with God? It's something about you, right? Let's say it's not my sins or my amal and my actions, right? What if other things? What if about my akhlaq? What if other things? If I see this, no, there's nothing wrong about it specifically me, and it's beyond my control. When it's beyond my control, that's the moment I might feel that's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is the concept that, anything happen is the bala and calamity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I really have issue with this. Yes, according to Islamic teachings, we have, it might be because of this, because of that, because of that. If I look at myself and see something is wrong with me, I need to fix it. Let's stay with just the general, wajibat and muharramat. We're not going to the details. About praying, about fasting, about mahram, non-mahram, about controlling the eyes, all those things, right? If I see that I need to work on these things, that's a great moment that I look at myself and improve myself. If it's not, no, overall, I'm good. I don't think it's about anything else. It just might be the test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I do what I need to do, go to the doctor, take care of this, improve my financial health, take another job, talk to experts about this. At the end of the day, trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it might be a test.
That's a beautiful point, Sayyid. And one of the things is that whether it is or isn't, if you can continue to look deep within yourself and try to fix the issues, because I think at every point in time, we're going to have weaknesses, deficiencies. I think it's a beautiful way that whether it is, as a result of sins or it is not, if I can always be looking within myself and using that as a catalyst to fix, for example, this issue, that issue, then that's something positive, right? And then you leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah. And let me tell you, Sayyid, something. Here, I think the point we have to pay attention is this. When we talk about is this a punishment from Allah, people assume psychologically, God forbid and God forbidden. There's a God sitting somewhere, like I don't know, like a police officer, right? As soon as you pass the red light, says, got you. I'm going to put you into jail because I hate you. You didn't do it. This is not the God that we believe and we worship. Even if there is something, a test from Allah, it's exactly way, not exactly, way more than the example of a mother would test the son. The father would test the son. What is the reason? Awareness, benefit, help. If Allah is testing someone, it's not to put them down. Even kuffar, even disbelievers. Allah says, come back to me. We're not just the only creatures Allah has. Even anything happen, Allah says, I love you, come back to me. It's like, hey, wake up, because I gave you the money, you didn't notice. I gave you the benefits, you didn't notice. So now with a little bit of calamity, you might notice. Reminds me of a good example. It's a story that there was a worker, constructive worker. He was working in a building that they were building, and then the architect was let's say in the 10th floor, right? And he wanted to have the attention of the guy in first floor and tell him that, hey, can you bring? And then he didn't know how. He's calling him. He's not realizing. His calling is not realizing. Then he took, $10 from his pocket, dropped it from the 10th floor. Went down. The guy that was working down, he got the money. Oh, alhamdulillah, the money comes. He put it in his pocket, not even noticing where it's coming from. He grabbed another bill, he put it down, picked it up. Oh, okay, so another money is coming. Then the guy upstairs, he got a little pebble, he dropped it. Hit the head of the guy who was working down on the first floor. He says, ouch. He looked up. Yeah. Sometimes when we have all the benefits and beauties, we don't look up to say, oh, it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because I am PhD guy, I am Ayatollah, I am an engineer, I am working, so I think it's all about me. But a little bit of the issue calamity, some things sometimes help us look up.
So I think it's important that whatever is happening, always look at it from that perspective of mercy. That whether it's good or whether it's bad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's trying to help you, right? Whatever that situation that you're in, He's acting like a mother, just like that sense of mercy that He's trying to improve your life. He's trying to make you grow. He's trying to make you stronger and better. That's kind of the perspective that we need to be looking at. And I think it helps too, that when you look at that perspective, you look at Allah from that perspective, it really helps us to bear what is taking place in our day-to-day lives.
Now, al-kalam yajur al-kalam. Let me tell you something. What is the concept of, again, I love this because there's all psychological perspective behind all this Islamic concept that we're talking about. Why Allah should come in the middle of my life and tell me something is haram or something is halal, wajib or not wajib. Why? I know it's not benefiting him. Why he's coming in and telling me to don't do certain things? There's only one answer to this. Because of the amount of love he has towards me. So he says, I know it's going to hurt you. I don't want you to do it to the extent that I'm making it haram for you to approach it. To get my point, psychologically, he's going to, I love you so. Imagine a child goes to mom. A child has an issue outside, fell down, and something happened, right? Comes home, mom says, I don't let you go out play with them anymore. Why? Because I love you. I don't want you to get hurt, right? Somehow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I don't want you to do this anymore, and I'm going to threaten you because if you do this, because you're going to hurt yourself. And I gave you from my own soul, nafakhtu fihi min ruhi. I don't want you to hurt yourself.
Now, from the perspective of that child, we're there throwing a tantrum.
Yeah, exactly.
Ya Allah, why didn't you give me this? Why didn't you do this? Why did this happen? It's interesting, sometimes we look at children, and I've noticed this throughout my life. We look at children and we think, wow, the kid is throwing a temper tantrum. He's like 3 years old, 4 years old. And sometimes we look at ourselves, grown men, grown women, and we're doing the exact same thing, but in a more adult way, of course. We're not going to scream and yell, but we're kind of, doing that same thing in regards to Allah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting perspective, when you look at the kids and then we look at ourselves. Yeah. Seyed, moving on, social media. I know that, especially as cell phones and smartphones became more common, people have started to kind of shift away, and we've begun to spend an inordinate amount of time on social media. And here I just wanted to get your take on this. Is this a healthy phenomenon, what's happening? Because I know many people that for them, it's literally become an addiction. Yeah. Before coronavirus, of course, now we don't have this issue anymore. But before, we would go, for example, to a restaurant, and I'd be sitting there looking at people, and 3-4 people would be sitting at a table, and every single one is on their phone checking their social media. And it's even reached the point that when it comes to mental health, when it comes to our idea about who we are, people have become addicted to simply posting pictures of themselves. And a lot of it, by the way, is filtered. And it's amazing that when you see the person in real life, you're like, that doesn't look like you, right? Your social media is not you. But they've become addicted to this. And I think they've even done studies where people are getting a dopamine hit, right? You put a picture up, you get these likes, and there's a feeling of self-worth. So I just wanted to get your take on this. And should we as Muslims be taking any steps to kind of prevent ourselves from falling into this?
Falling into what? Using social media, you mean?
Social media addiction, essentially, yes.
Well, that's a good question. My doctoral, dissertation is about social media and the effect of it on families, actually, right? Let me put it this way. Yes, social media technology, they have definitely their own benefits. No one can deny it that there are a lot of benefits in social media, for sure. I myself have some accounts as well. So let me tell you, so I'm not against it to say, oh, we shouldn't use it or something. It's about how to use it. We can't fight with technology, say it. We need to refine technology. We need to make sure the way that we use technology is in a right path and correct, so it would not hurt us. Because of social media, to be honest, in the new modern years, the whole interactions of people, communication, lifestyle, everything changed. If I go back to some of the issues of depression and anxieties that are so prevalent in the rate is so high, one of the reasons that all experts are adding and talking and the statistics are mentioning is the social media, right? Without being so negative about it. It's just a scientific discussion. The way that we look at social media, the amount of hours, excessive screen time that we have, right? The content of social media, how it affects us, the way that we're using it, and the age of users that they use social media are important as well, okay? I have cases personally, say it, that are getting divorced because of social media.
Wow.
I have cases before because of Facebook, not to go so easy, because of Facebook, they were getting divorced. Why?
Is it because they're spending too much time? Is it other things?
A lot of people are complaining about their partner and their spouses are spending too much time and they're neglecting their important responsibilities. That's number one. Okay, and we all I think experience it ourselves as well. That sometimes you just half an hour and then boom, it's been 2 hours that I'm using. One is about, yes, excessive amounts of time that they use. Second was about the social media break the trust. He said, I told her I don't want this type of pictures to be online and social media, and she put it. He said, who are you connected to? Oh, why is this girl on your account? Oh, who is this boy in the account? Oh, is this man here and there? Different examples, right? A variety of examples. Why even you have social media? Why do you need the social media? All different examples, right? A lot of people have issue with this. Our audience might say, so what if, for example, we use it in a nice way? We use it the way that, we won't have any of this issue. Good job. Very good. If you can use it properly, that's why we mentioned it's not about don't use it. It's about use it properly. It's about what am I using it for, right? But most of the time, people start with using it properly and it goes out of control, right? It goes out of control on how it uses. So therefore, yes, social media. And another thing, Seyed, is about this. Constantly seeing the positive side of other people's life. It's all about, as you said, the layers and filters as well. Oh, someone is so beautiful. Oh, look at the closet. Oh my God, the amount of shoes that they have. Right. Look at, Sister Maryam, Brother Ahmed, they're always traveling. But how about us? We're not traveling, right? Always projecting the positive side of their life. And when I look at my life, I don't have that much fun. Psychologically, I don't see behind the scene, right? I don't see that what's going on behind the scene. I just see the positive message that comes there. So therefore, I always compare myself with a pool of positivity that is one aspect of life of people. Then I see something is wrong with me. This is about individual perspective, right? Then I feel individually. So that's why sometimes from this perspective, it causes issues. Second, go back to Islamic perspective, say you mentioned, how much of this screen time is keeping me away from my Islamic duties? If it's, for example, the time for azan, would I say, oh, I need to pray? Just few more clips I have to watch, few more things I have to post, right?
Or take a picture of yourself praying and then post it.
Right. The other thing is about another thing is about how we support. How do we do al ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar in social media? I always talk about this in my lectures. Someone does something haram, just because I'm for followers, I put, oh, you look so cute. Oh, it's so fun. Oh, it's so nice. Do I know this is against my beliefs that I should not support? I was supposed to say respectfully, nicely, maybe in private or something, you know, brother, you know, sisters, I think this is not right. You shouldn't do that, right? The support that comes. So then sometimes it goes not only against my spiritual beliefs sometimes and how it keeps me away from these things, but also in my mental health, how am I looking at it, the amount of time. So mostly what I can tell you is about the amount of time that we're using on it. Just a very short calculation, how many hours a day I might spend on my social media, times a week, times month, times year. I'm going to say something very scary. I was with a group of youth, the age, let's say 7 to 25. I asked them, what was the highest number of hours you spend on social media? What was the number you think, Sayed?
I would wager, yes, maybe 25 hours a week. Maybe that's too much. I don't know.
It was shocking. A lot of them, they mentioned 20 hours a day.
Wow.
A day.
So just constantly on.
Snapchat or a video game, specific video games, you know. But to the Snapchat specifically, some people says close to 20 hours a day. I use a few times.
Wow.
And we're talking about our teenagers, our youth, the future of the society, the future of, I don't know, you know, Islam and everything. Then imagine just, let's say 10 hours a day, right? According to them. Then imagine this mind doesn't have energy for anything else. This mind, and by the way, it's not just the time that I'm using it, even after that, this mind is constantly busy. Many people here, I know that unfortunately, before you go to sleep, you're checking your social media account. You're checking your Instagram. You know, psychologically, you're taking pictures, right? You're taking pictures of every single clip or picture that you have. And then you go to sleep, before you go to sleep, you know, your mind takes a long time to shut down.
Mm.
The mind is still active. Then tomorrow you wake up and says, well, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, I sleep. No, because the mind didn't sleep.
You know, Sayed, what kind of an effect is this having though? Because imagine that from the age of 6 or 7 years old, your entire reality, the way that you're looking out at the world, right? The image that you have of this reality, of this world around you is based on this filtered reality, which is being fed to you through social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but think that that is going to create a negative mental state. And that, you know, like, as you were mentioning, that everyone else is leading this beautiful, amazing life. And why is God punishing me? It almost seems like, you know, if you look at social media, it seems like God has blessed everyone else and he's punishing me, you know, and I have this horrible life. And right. So, I wonder what kind of an effect this is having, particularly on those who are young.
This is definitely way more intense effect on children and youth. You know, I remember I was doing a study for the dissertation. The age of using electronic devices are going to 4 now, constantly using it, right? So it's so scary when you look at it, you know, because for them they have less mental capacity and capability to be able to differentiate between the reality of their life and what they see online. It's very difficult for me and you and older ones. We might think, yeah, but not everybody is like this, you know. So, but for them, it's difficult. This is the reality of the world that they see. It's way more difficult. Therefore, the negative effect is more severe for them as well, right? I have some cases say that literally addiction to devices. I mean, literally to this extent. He came, there was a youth program for playing basketball. Look at this, what happened. To this extent that he couldn't put the cell phone down, that when they were playing and shooting the ball and everything, for example, the basketball was going on the other side and someone was supposed to go grab it and come back and start the game. How long it takes?
Couple seconds, I would
Couple
say.
seconds.
Yeah.
This this period of time, he was going, grabbing his phone, playing, and putting it down and coming back. It's, I was just so sad to see that because I couldn't say anything. But look at this level, right? I have clients that mom and dad saying that constantly on the phone, social media, to the extent they had to take the door of the room, pull out the door, and so there's no door, so we can see what the amount of hours that he's using.
Yeah.
For them, because the last stage of development, of brain development, is understanding the risks of the behavior, which at the age of 25, 26 would be completed, right? That's why we have a lot of teenagers' risky behavior, teenage pregnancy in the social, the secular world. We have a lot because they don't understand the risks of their behavior. So look at this, and then if I don't understand the risk of my excessive amount of time I spend on social media or devices or whatever screens, how it's going to affect.
Seyed, as just one last piece of advice, and this is one of the questions that a sister asked, is how do we avoid these negative effects? So if you could give, for example, just one piece of advice to parents, and particularly in this time when everything has gone virtual because of coronavirus, right? So I think this is compounding the issues that we were facing. Now it's 100 times worse. But what is one piece of advice that you would give to parents who are in these situations?
Good question. Well, let's categorize it. The amount of time my children should be on the screen, is it because of the school? Most probably I cannot avoid it, right? They need to be, right now we're talking about it. Most probably they need to be online and do whatever they need to do. If I can decrease it, let's do it. Even half an hour, even 15 minutes, if you can decrease it by you being the parent, homeschooling or something, you be more engaging. I actually asked one of my professors 2 days ago the same question. It says, my daughter, she's going to do online things. I don't like it. What should we do? She mentioned, do as much as hands-on projects as possible. Do something to keep her away. If she has to be on the screen, then she has to for school, right? If not, do as much as you can so you'll be engaging with her. Then what else you can do? The second category is about going online for fun things, right? Make sure, because of excessive amount of time for school, they need to be online. Make sure as much as possible, again, that's tough because parents, they need to, I'm talking ideally what you should do. Make sure you have fun activities with them that are not online fun activities, right? Projects with them, go out, walking with them. Let's go outside in the backyard, play with each other. Mom and dad share responsibility and time. Half an hour I go, half an hour you go, 2 hours I go, 2 hours you go, whatever they can dynamically based on their life stuff. So as much as possible, make sure you keep them away from the screen, right? This is the third. The third time that I always see parents, they have their children on screen, you know when? When they want to have them away from them, from parents. Just grab it, go, shh, quiet. I'm so tired of that. It's such a great strategy, isn't it? You just give the device, boom, everybody's quiet. It's so easy, it's so fun. I'm so quiet, I'm in peace. They're right, because sometimes they're going crazy because of that, right? But my sincere request, with that, you are betraying your children. I know it's so hard, I know it's so difficult. With that, you're making it more difficult for yourself because it will affect the behavior of your kids. Take away the iPad for a second, you see what I'm talking about. The yelling and shouting and misbehaving, throwing tantrum, you see sometimes because I did it with my daughter. I used it literally when I give her, the iPad or something, to play with sometimes, if the hours are too much, sometimes she is not in a good behavior for even 1 or 2 days. Passes, she's good for, a good amount of days. If I give again, it's going to be, I literally experienced this myself.
Sayed, what you're explaining, to me, it sounds almost like withdrawal.
Exactly. And again, how it's affecting them. By the way, I'm not talking about the content yet.
Yeah, we didn't even get
in what they're watching. What is the effect of that? We're just talking about the amount of hours and how they're using it. But more important and more dangerous than that, because you're not there constantly. He's behind the screen. She's behind the screen. They're using something that you might not know at all. Who behind the scene programmized that video or that clip or that animation, you don't know the evil intention behind this.
Mm.
Sometimes there are video clips, sometimes there are animations, say it, that let's say 30 episodes. There's nothing wrong in this, let's say 25, 6 episodes. The last one is the is stabbing the back of the Muslim families and the spiritual families by projecting something so difficult and
You know,
so
Said,
inappropriate. You know?
it's interesting that you mentioned this because I was just thinking back to my own childhood. I don't know how you grew up in Iran, but I remember as kids, you know, this was before the time of smartphones, and I think cell phones were just beginning to come out, and it was those big, bulky,
Mhm.
you know, it was, you know, it was big enough where you could hurt someone with it. But as a young child, you know, the way that we kind of lived was, if it was a weekend, from the time that we woke up after Saturday morning cartoons, right? There was only cartoons for 2, 3 hours. We were outside and we were playing, right? There was other kids. We were socializing. We were skateboarding. We were mountain biking, whatever it was that we were doing, getting into all sorts of trouble, I'm sure. But now that I look at this generation, right, the kids that are growing up today, it's as if they can hardly leave their rooms. And I've always wondered what is the effect that is having on, you know, a lot of the diseases that we see is becoming more and more common. Things like anxiety, depression that we see in these very young children. I've always wondered how much of a connection that has, that when you have this young child, this small child, with all of that energy that has to be spent, right? How much of that is being essentially bottled up, is being taken in, and then that's causing all of these different issues.
Okay, good question. So the first issue, let me say something before. The first issue is the parents modeling something wrong for kids. When parents are constantly on a screen, right? It's giving the children this excuse that this is the lifestyle. I have to be like, I have to use like social media or whatever a screen like this. So that's the number one issue I found. Literally, that the first issue is about parents. They need to fix their lifestyle. Then they can expect the children to be able to do the same thing. Um, that's huge, by the way. So I go back to the lifestyle. You need to have a plan and a lifestyle that keeps them away. It's not about everything else is the same. You just tell them don't use I don't know, screen or iPad so much. I can't say I'm so busy, I don't have time for you to play with you, and at the same time expect them go outside and play. She might go outside and play 1 hour, but how about after that, right? I need to adapt myself to that new lifestyle as well, specifically during current time that we're talking about. I need to create a lifestyle that parents themselves do not excessively use their phone. Mostly it's about phone, right? Smartphones. Second, create a lifestyle by sharing responsibilities among family members. If you have older children, they can help you as well. If not, mostly the couples can share responsibilities when and how can help each other to spend time with children or not spend time with children. So that's what I think, Said, is the most important thing. Everything should be appropriate so children would not fall into these issues. Which if they do, as you mentioned, the mental issues, the problems, the OCDs, the depression, all things would,
Mhm.
be there.
Sayed, leading to another issue that I really wanted to bring up today is when it comes to the Islamic perspective of raising kids. And, you know, there's a number of traditions which they mention this type of one third, one third, one third, right? There's these three different stages in how the Ahlul Bayt have recommended that we raise our kids. I wanted to get your perspective on this and see if we can raise our kids in this way. Will it reduce a lot of the issues that they're going to have later on in life in relation to mental health?
Well, that's not the only thing. It's not about I just divide the tarbiyat into 3 stages and then I ignore other things. No, it's just one. It's just a platform. Let me put it this way, right? You need to pay attention in this 3 different stages. You need to pay attention to a lot of things. All right. But let me tell you the psychology behind it, how it's going to help children psychologically and for mental health. Okay. So when we say the first stage, which is 0 to 7, for example, they said al-waladu sayyid sab'a. For 7 years, they are just sayyid. They're king and queens. Don't force them too much. That doesn't mean you don't teach them something. That means directly You don't force them to learn something. Indirectly and appropriately, you can teach them a skill, right? What you do in this 7 years by not forcing them and pushing them, you know what it is, Sayed? It's about developing trust between you and them. So in the 7 years, which the mental development is not complete to the level that you can talk to them and ask them to do certain things, it's all about exploring the world. It's all about grabbing it. It's all about putting it in the mouth, right? It's all about seeing it, touching it, grabbing it. When you let them explore the world, they trust you. So when I'm around you, you let me see things, you let me experience things. Psychologically, there's a term, attachment. This is the most important ability, secure attachment, that if you can create it, that can, according to statistic, and it's according to the science and knowledge and psychology, the most important ability that can help children's development from all aspects, emotional, psychological, brain development, physical, is attachment. What is attachment? The bond between the child and the first caregiver, which continues, goes to later on between couples as well. Anyhow, the baby would trust you that you let them explore the world. In the second stage, which is until 14, what will happen? You teach them. Why? Because they trust you already. So psychologically, they trust you. Imagine a child who is under the pressure by doing this and doing that when they're not ready mentally to be able to do certain things. I know sometimes parents force the child at the age, you need to memorize this surah, you need to memorize that surah, memorize this ayah Quran, memorize this long dua. Why you are not able to do it? My father helped me and I could do it. You're putting so much pressure on this little brain of the child that cannot absorb it. You tell me what the results say it. The mental pressures, right? And at that age, the tolerance is lower. What will happen? It goes somewhere. The anxiety comes. Feeling of not being smart, not being worthy. This comes to the child. The child grew up with something is wrong with me, right? Something is wrong with you, what are you doing? So in the second stage, because of that trust, appropriately and nicely, according to Islam, you teach them, this is what we have to do, this is what we have to do, this is what we have to do. The third stage, that mentally, you build the trust. Second, you teach them, you taught them something appropriately they need to know. Now that's the time, they are the wazir, they are the one that are counselors. You can sit down, talking to them, advising them, and you can, to a certain point, trust them because you taught them. If you want to see your teenagers, who they are, look back what you taught them, how you treated them in the past, right? So therefore, to be honest, the most important thing for these levels are about the pressure that parents put on children, the lifestyle that they create for children, and how they have to, help them to learn things or to trust or to explore the world.
Seyed, in connection to this, a question just came in, and I wanted to ask this before moving on. And the question that is being asked is saying that it's simpler to avoid these troubles by simply not allowing any on-screen socialization with peers until the age of 14 or after. And they said that I find it interesting how many parents, they don't have difficulty saying no to children regarding other issues, but when it comes to this issue of social media, they're not really able to enforce this kind of a policy that's saying, hey, social media is not good for you, it's not healthy, and we're either going to completely restrict or at least limit the amount of social media access that you have. What is your perspective on this? Is it possible? Can we completely just say no, or will that cause bigger issues?
Good question. Well, we have to look back. If I am having an account, if my son, my daughter are passing by, see I'm online on something, social media, no, we cannot, right? If I'm constantly using it, that's part of our lifestyle, no, I cannot. If I already introduced it to them, and now I want to take it away from them, most probably going to have a lot of challenges, no. However, let me put it in two different categories. Category number one, if they're still little, they are not exposed to social media, even to smartphones, delay it as much as possible that you have the power, and you can. Believe me, they're not going to lose anything. As much as you can, that is, don't put too much pressure. This is about the policy. It's about, if not social, if not a smartphone, then what? Then we're going out together. Then we're doing this together. Then we have other funds. Then I'm going to buy something else for you. It's not about taking away something and giving nothing. No, it doesn't work, right? You need to replace it with something else. So if they're not introduced yet, do your best in order to delay it as much as possible. You feel it. There's a moment you can't delay it anymore. But this time, the girl comes to me. She's 13, 14-year-old, right? Everyone in the school have the phone. Said, I'm feeling embarrassed in front of them. They're bullying me. There's some, oh, you don't have money. Your father doesn't have money to buy it for you. We're talking about the social and peer pressure, right? That's why we have to mention.
So yes, from that perspective, that if you're essentially you're not taking it away, but you're not giving it to your child, and then every other child has it in school, is the child going to have a sense of deprivation, a sense of not having what every single other classmate has?
Depends on the age and how you describe it and you communicate it. If you could nicely communicate with them, why, what are the things we have to look at, why you're delaying it, and all these things, I would say there's less feeling of deprivation. Not completely, no, it's just less. I'm trying to understand you, Dad, but everybody has, that age is very difficult. However, it's about that and the age. If it's about the age of, for example, 14, it's way more difficult because yes, they expect to have it because everybody had it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago before then. So it's a little bit difficult. Yeah. But the second group, if they already introduced social media and now they're going to take it away, it takes a huge effort by you changing yourself, your lifestyle, and then explaining, talking. It's very difficult. It's better to work on modifying how to use it rather than just taking it away.
Yeah, because the sister or brother who had asked the question, it was a good point. It was saying that, look, you're giving them access to this very addictive tool, and then you're almost expecting that they're going to self-limit that use, even though we know that social media has been designed to increase the use, right? That's the whole, the algorithms and all of that have been designed that when someone begins to use it, they get that hit of dopamine every time someone is liking something, and then that will increase and increase and increase. And it seems as if they're too young to really have that sense of self-control, especially if we're talking 6 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old. So that was a really beautiful point that they had made. Yeah. Seyed, that time is coming that I just wanted to open up the floor. I think we're reaching the end of our session, inshallah. I wanted to open up for any questions that people have. Whether these questions are, you can use the voice feature, you can ask them through voice, you can type them out, and inshallah, we can go through these questions one at a time. I think there was a few questions that were asked and we kind of skipped over because we were discussing these issues. One of the questions was, it actually caught my eye. And the question the sister had asked is the following question: that I feel that I'm living my life in a cycle, meaning that the same tests, the same anxieties, the same worries, all of my life I have relied completely on Allah. I remained in His path and I ensured that I only did what pleased Him. However, those same obstacles that I faced, they continue to stack up. They continue to isolate me from society. And I'm not seeing the ease, right? That idea of ease that is going to come after that hardship. And the question is specifically, how do I avoid falling into despair given this situation? It's a difficult question.
Yeah, very good question. So here's the thing. I somehow, talked about this in my discussion. Number one, before we go to the discussion, I'm doing everything that Allah asked me to do and everything else, and then why Allah is not helping me. Before we go there, we need to check ourselves. Is there anything I'm doing wrong? I'm talking about literally the physical perspective of things. Is there anything I have to learn about that issue? Is there anything that if I change my approach, if I have more knowledge about it, I might change things? Say it's about similar to that guy who was telling me, for example, why I'm keep changing my job. I might need to change a little bit of things. It's not all about major changes. I might just need to change my approach towards things. Let me give you this example. I had a brother came to me. He was 34-year-old, something like that, 5. He couldn't get married. And he was complaining, why Allah is not helping me to get married? Something wrong, why Allah doesn't like me? I sat down with him and told him, tell me, what is your approach towards marriage? He said, well, when I go to the house of the girl, when I talk to the girl, I'll look at the face of the girl to see the Noor of Iman in the face of the girl. I'm like, MashaAllah, then you should have a specific, special glasses on to see it. See your approach. Anyhow, that was one of the things he mentioned, right? I worked with him a little bit as an expert. I helped him to change his perspective, to put it in order. A month later, he got married, literally, right? So sometimes before we just look for unseen help, we have to pay attention to ourselves. We need to talk to experts related to that topic. If it's about the school, the counselor at the school. It's about financial things, go talk to someone financially who is expert. It's about mental health, talk to an expert psychologist who know this thing that can help. Second step, if everything else, like all this thing that I mentioned, we did it, everything is fine, right? I can tell you it's almost impossible if there's any specific issue is not in the life of the person. If you look at yourself, you'll be able to fix it. Sometimes there are unseen issues. I'm going to go to a little bit of Islamic things. Said someone came to, I think Ayatollah Bahauddin, and says, I'm doing everything. My business doesn't work. I'm paying homes. I'm doing everything I can do. I'm praying on time, blah, blah, blah. Nothing works. Ayatollah Bahauddin told him that, how are you treating your dad? He says, oh, it's been a little bit of time. I'm not talking to him. He said, go fix that, come back here, problem party. Sometimes it's about unseen things that we don't see them, but they affect us, right? Let's say everything is fine and everything is good. There's nothing wrong. I look at myself. Then the last stage is the test of Allah. It might have a time I have to, be patient with it, that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to help me. We see it in the life of the Sahabi, Abu Zar Ghafari, right? How long he was exiled in Rabada without any help, without anything. He was just patient. To the end of his life, actually.
Yeah.
It might be the testimony.
That's a beautiful point, Seyed. Yeah, a lot of times I think, just looking at myself, my own life, my own experiences, a lot of the times that I've run into issues, it's been due to issues that I have caused myself. And I think this is a very human experience, that a lot of times we think, okay, God is doing this, but at the end of the day, really, it's and sometimes they're not big issues, right? Or at least they're not big in our own eyes.
Exactly.
But when we really reflect upon ourselves, we look at ourselves, it's issues that we need to fix. And I think one of the biggest ones is the perspective that we have, the way that we look out at the world, the way that we look at God, and really the relationship that we have with God as well. That's, everyone has a different type of relationship with God. I think one of my experiences with people is that a lot of times people have this very transactional relationship with God. That's, okay, God, 5 prayers and you give me this, right? Okay, and I'll do another 5 prayers, or I'll do Salat al-Layl and I want this.
Exactly.
And this is really, that's a mistaken, right? That's a mistaken way of looking at the world. I think that's one of the issues that causes these kinds of things to occur. Seyed, one of the questions that was also asked is the question that relates to self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you do a lot of counseling, and I want to ask this, that when you are both during your counseling sessions as well as dealing with community, do you feel that Muslim youth, do they have a very strong sense of self-esteem, or is it something that they're lacking? Because I know that, especially in the West, one of the problems that we face is that you see all of the negativity on the media. There's a lot of negativity associated with being a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can really damage, especially a young individual's sense of self-esteem. What do you see? And if it is indeed very low, what can we do to fix this?
Very good question. And unfortunately, it's mostly not having a really good self-esteem, level of self-esteem in them. And unfortunately, I've seen this mostly in boys rather than girls. If you see in the societies, boys are more passive and less active than the girls sometimes, However, it's for both genders the same sometimes as well. It depends on the society. But generally, it's lower. Because of certain reasons, such as, number one, the personality of parents, how the father and mother they are themselves, how much they're active in terms of in the society, in the community, how much they're active, what is the personality of parents, how parents treated them. The constant suppressing the feelings of children ends up in having lower self-esteem, constantly blaming them, constantly reprimanding them, just putting them down. You're not doing right, this is wrong. That ends up in lower level of self-esteem for sure. um, showing it and enlarging, their mistakes. This is another thing that lowers the self-esteem as well. This is about the house environment, say, that we're talking about, how parents deal with them. Why you got this? What's wrong with you? I was like, all these terminologies and how we communicate with them can affect our mental health and the self-esteem as well. In the social perspective, yes, all these things. We are in minorities. For girls, may Allah bless them, inshallah, if they have hijab, with hijab, they go out. It's all about that girl, that age. It's all about feeling that everybody's looking at her, right? And how they feel about it. I cannot show my beauties to everyone. Look at my classmate, she can do it. I cannot do it. All these things in their mind. This is another thing. Plus, the embarrassing social news that comes, like you said, any disasters comes, always is about the name of Muslims there, or the major things happen, 9/11 things happen, and blah, 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 or whatever happens, the blaming that comes to Muslims, that's another aspect that comes to this. Fourth, about the communities, Muslim communities, centers, they're not helping to boost the self-esteem of our children, because children always are the third level citizen, not even the second. They're always on the back, not in the front. Only when we want to show that, our centers is good with children, we let them come in and do something. When we're done, go back. You can't do anything. So we don't treat them as leaders. We don't give them. So you see all environment around them are associated with this situation. What can we do regarding that? I can say most of the time when I go with youth program or everything, when I ask them a question, all of them are shy to talk. God forbid if you're going to give them the mic. Oh my God, they're going to get a heart attack, right? In front of who? In front of 5 people. I'm not talking about in front of the crowd. No, 5 people. Always they have this lack of self-esteem and confidence to be able to come forward. Some of them are good, by the way, it's not all, but unfortunately the majority, based on my experience, the level is low. What can we do? Like I said, from the house situation, how parents would give more opportunities for them to grow. Give them some responsibilities, some leadership, some important jobs, not just go lock the door. Give them some, based on the age. For example, your teenagers, you're in charge of paying the bills. This is the credit card, and I trust you, and this is the bills. Every month you do this. Big responsibilities. You're supervising, by the way, but they are doing the job, right? Big responsibilities based on the age. If it's like, I don't know, 5-year-old, sweetheart, can you set the table? Just put the spoons, right? Big responsibility for that age, for example, depends on that. 10 years old, different responsibility. In the community, the same thing. What we do usually in my center, I do is that give them responsibility. We have youth board, literally in charge of their programs. No adults are in charge of it. They do everything they're supposed to do. They have the budget to do. We are supervising just to make sure nothing goes wrong. But they're in charge of it. Give them the chance to grow, right? From the community perspective. Not like that boy, he was giving the azan somewhere else. I've seen a few years ago, I've heard that he was giving the azan and said he was doing something wrong in talaffuz, and someone older ones come and grab the mic. Who gave you the mic to say the azan? Don't do it because you can. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
Anyhow, you see the community wise. In the society, that's a little bit different. School is different. That comes with the role of parents and experts to talk to them and describe it to them. What's going on? At least behind the scene, behind the social and society, we give them the power. By what? By help them to be proud of being Muslim, that there's nothing wrong with being Muslim. If you can give them based on aqa'id and beliefs, right information, right, and work with other things that I mentioned, at least they know there's nothing wrong with being Muslim. By how? Me as a father, I go to a restaurant and I ask question about if the food is halal or not, and I'm not shy. My son is standing there, he's watching me. I'm not shy to ask, is it halal or not, right? I'm outside, the salah is getting qaza, or inshallah on time I need to pray. I put my janamaz, I pray over there. My son is watching this. That's more important than any speeches. Right? Without just talking, showing them the right behavior. Mostly the children's self-esteem, it comes and will boost up by the behavior of parents. All right. So by talking to them, yes, social media, this is what happened. This is the society, it's talking about this and that. But the more we talk to them and justify those things, the more power, just the gist of that, can help.
That's beautiful, beautiful point, Sayed, in regards to, the children, they're just watching. They're just watching the parents to see, how is my father behaving? How is my mother behaving? And a lot of times I think parents, they don't realize just how powerful that is. A lot of times they say, okay, well, if I just tell them to do this, they'll get it. Even if I'm not doing it myself. Um, Sayed, another question that has come in, and it's a very specific question. It asks, in your experience of counseling kids and parents, what is the biggest noticeable factor or lack thereof in the parents that has the biggest negative and positive impact on the mental health of the children?
Good question.
Yeah.
The biggest negative point I can answer to this brother or sister is lack of knowledge and experience in pain. Going just how their fathers and grandparents, they were doing it, going that way. Second, when I said knowledge, not knowing the brain development and developmental stages of their children, forcing them to do something, not knowing that is their capacity to do things or not. For example, you cannot force a 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, force them to share their things, right? You can't see that something is wrong with them because developmentally, we call it egocentrism. They're egocentric. They're not at the age of sharing things. You can encourage it, you can't force it, right? That's one of the major things, that lack of knowledge about what ages they are, what the stages of development they have, how much you can ask them, how much you should be careful with, what to introduce it to them or whatnot, right? The biggest negative things is here. The biggest positive things I can tell you is about how you communicate with them. Even if they make a mistake, how you communicate with them about that mistake. Actually, communication is the most important factor associated with, I can tell you, any relationship, specifically marriage as well, right? That goes back to the communication style. So when we talk about it, how you talk to them, how you let them express their feelings. If you show them that when you're angry, you yell at them instead of communicating with them, they're gonna learn behaviorally they have to yell when they're upset. And he becomes a teenager, he already learned from you, rather than telling you that, I'm so upset because of what happened, he's gonna yell at you. Then you can see at that age why you're not respecting your father. Islam said his prayer. Look back how you were before, right? So negatively, lack of having constructive communication with them, and this leads to wrong behavior. And positively, if you have a good communication with them, and negatively, lack of experience and knowledge can be the big things.
Say, there's another question, not really controversial, but it's a difficult one to answer. And the question that is being asked is, what is the best way to explain and guide teenage boys with very healthy hormones and very willing girls in our society to refrain from any haram relationships, especially when they are in high school and it is the norm?
I'm assuming Seyed, in the United States, they're already at that age, they had access to everything. If they don't know more than mom and dad what's going on and how it works, the relationship, they don't know less, definitely. They most probably know more, Be open. When I said communication, remember, say it, and to that brother, sister who asked the question. When I said communication is based on the age range, how you communicate with them. My suggestion, if you see your daughter or your son at the age that you see they're more inclined towards this type of things, which is normal, they have to, they should be. Number one, I don't start panicking. Oh my God, my son talked to a girl. Ya Allah, forgive us. Astaghfirullah. I know that happened, but just the natural approach of that boy is at that age be more towards the girls be towards the boys. I hope you can get it. I'm talking about academic discussion. It's not about Islamic, Sayyid is making halal. No, I'm not doing it, right? It's all about the perspective behind it. Second, you have to have a beautiful, constructive communication with them. How? I'm just giving some examples. Say, sitting with your teenage boy, talking to him and describing to him what is happening to him. He doesn't know what is happening to him. He just all of a sudden see himself. Before in the masjid, he was not even looking at that girl, but all of a sudden now, at this age, he likes to talk to the girl, right? He doesn't know what's going on within himself. You be educated. It's a very, very delicate job, by the way. It's not easy. Just let them sit down with them, describe it. You know, sweetheart, at this age, this things would happen to you. You became balib. These are the signs that become balib. I'm not saying this explicitly talk about everything, but describe it exactly according to the age, what's going on. You might feel something about this and that. You might feel this type of needs in your body, right? This is how we have to control it. These are the Islamic advices that we have. This is how Allah expect us to do things. Why? Because if at this age you have a relation with someone, how it goes, how it affects your future, it affects your personal life, it affects your academic life, it affects your future. That's how we do. That's how we control it. You know, I don't want to go to the details, but talking and communicating with girls and boys is specific, right? When the girls are becoming bottom, say, I don't know how many of the mothers would have a nice, positive, beautiful, informative discussion with them. Sweetheart, you're becoming balib. These are the changes in your body is going to happen. You have to know. If you see this, don't be scared. This is going to help you this way. Mom went through this as well. Aunt went through this as well. You have to be. These are the shadow responsibility behind this. These are our things. Then the kids would realize if something happened, I can come to mom and dad and talk to them. I'm not afraid of mom and dad. If you make it a taboo, why that happened? By the way, shouldn't happen. This is haram, but how we approach them, right? You let them come to you and says, you know, this happened at the school. So you can give them right advice. If you put the wall between yourself and them, you know what happens? Instead of talking to you, go talk to Jack and Joe outside, right? And then you know what they're gonna tell them. My God, you're so cool. Good job. You know, do this and do that. Everything, have fun. Oh my God, the girl, look at you. You know the advice where that comes from. Let them come to you by your nice reaction, but have your discipline. Have your discipline. What is halal, what is haram, how we do it, put the rules and responsibilities, how you approach them. Let them next time come to you and says, Mom, the boy came and talked to me. What am I supposed to do?
Seyed, you know, and I don't want to interrupt, but how common is this amongst parents from a Middle Eastern background? Do you find that most of them have this type of a relationship? Most of them do not? What is the norm?
You know, the majority, they don't have their relationship with parents that can trust them and talk to them. I have a lot of youth in my sessions, major things that says, if I talk to dad about this, he's going to yell at me. Yesterday, I was talking to someone. She said, I just told my dad that my friend has a friend like that. Not even her friend. Her friend has a friend like that. And my dad yelled at me, you're so-and-so. You're not supposed to talk to her. You're not supposed to hang out with her. Then, brother, she's not going to come to you and tell you next time. Period. Are you happy with that? So if you don't know, it's better. Rather than, I'm not saying don't say that's wrong. I'm saying your approach. Thank you so much for trusting me and telling me. I really appreciate for, you know, your trust me and telling me. What do you think about it? Rather than do it, don't do it, go there, come here. What do you think, sweetheart? Do you think that's the right thing to do? Do you think that type of friendship, it works for you? Let them be active in conversation, not passive. They don't want another advice. They go to the masjid, say, Maulana is talking, boom, 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 they have to be quiet. Home, but mom and dad, boom, 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 time. They never had the role of being active in their life, right? It's always been passive. And then they learn in social media, back to social media, say, then they learn be quiet and passive and accept everything comes to them rather than be active. No social media, that's wrong, I'm not gonna accept it. They don't do that because it's always about listen, right? But in a conversation, tell them, what do you think, sweetheart? Do you think that's fine? I don't know, Dad, maybe this is, well, how about looking at this? What about this ayah Quran? Why do you think Islam said it's this way? Having discussion with them. Well, I think Islam says that. Why Islam says that? I don't agree with Islam saying these things. Okay, let's discuss about it. Sweetheart, I don't know the answer. Let's go to Maulana when I talk to Maulana about this. It's beyond my knowledge. Period. Honest, right? Don't be intimidated. It's about how we talk to them.
You know, one of the things I always tell parents is that, you know, it's interesting. A lot of parents, they always assume that my child is too young. And they may be young, but I think one of the things that, especially parents who come from a Middle Eastern background, is they don't realize just how young kids are gaining access to these kinds of things. That literally you have kids that are 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, and they have types of knowledge, they have information about things that maybe even the parents don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And this is I always just say, just assume that they know everything, right? And this is the biggest thing, that a lot of parents, they just assume, okay, they don't know, they're too young, and suddenly something bad happens, and then at that point they are not ready for it. They don't have the relationship, they explode, and now that you have, right, you already had a problem, now you just made it worse.
So then you be the source of giving them the information according to that age that they need to hear things, rather than other people give them that.
Yeah. So the question is in regards to access to proper counseling and mentoring. And
Mm-hmm.
they're asking that, look, this issue with counseling, it really costs a lot of money. And even if it doesn't cost a lot of money, there's the issue of access to it. A lot of times, good counselors, especially for us who are within the Shia community, is going to be hundreds of miles away, 50 miles, 100, 200 miles away. And so I guess the question which is being asked is, what can we do right now in regards to these issues that we're having? And I'm assuming that these are specialized needs, that
Yeah,
Muslims need access to counseling,
yeah.
but they are having difficulty gaining that access.
Good. I'm going to answer it in different ways, say, if I
Yeah.
can, or different sections. So one section, imagine if there is a physical need to have a physician.
Yeah.
What would you do?
You would go even if it was 300 miles away.
And if it is so expensive?
Yeah.
You do it. And you know what? You look for the best doctors, sometimes the most expensive, because you are looking for the result. That's number one, right? So it's about our approach, how we mentally look at it. It's something that, because it's always, it should be free or something. That's number one of approach. Second is about, it's not that always, I know unfortunately, specifically in the Shia world, we don't have too much of resources about this. However, I can tell you, no, online you can have access to the counseling. For example, the sessions that we have in HADI Life Coaching, it's always online. Say, just to let you know, we have clients from 7 different countries, same time, 7 different countries, they can connect with us, the online things, social media, not the social media, the Skype sessions that we have with them, or other platforms. All other United States, all the states throughout the United States, we have clients from them and they connect with us. So it is specifically nowadays that we have it from even, 7 years ago. It's not just right now. 8 years ago, we did the same thing. It's about just this connection, to have a right connection. I'm sure some communities, some mental health services, they might have some specific services for special people, for some families, if they need some help, if they need some financial assistance, they have some, definitely, what we call it, the specific assistance and help for them as well. However, it's an investment. If there is an issue, you're investing on the future of yourself and your children by preventing the issue to become, to escalate. If I say, unfortunately, that's one of the things I've seen. People delay it, even in physical, medical aspects, until they see the outbreaks, until they see that they can't function or the pain, then they go to the doctor. No. If you go on time, then you need to invest less time and less money. If you go late, I have clients with 40 years of marital issue. I can't tell you how many sessions you need, sweetheart. You need to come as much as possible until 40 years of disabilities and issues and problems go away, right?
It'll
So
take
of
another
course
40
it might
years.
take time and money, right? But yes, we are having a lot of sources that can help.
Excellent point, Sayed. I mean, it just reminds me of, for example, going to the dentist. If you go on these regular checkups, you go early, right? Dentist is going to say you have a tiny cavity. It's going to take me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you're fixed and you're good to go. But if you wait and wait and wait, and some people have this tendency, and then they go after 5, 10 years.
There you go.
You say, all right, it's going to cost 10,000, 20,000. I think
Yeah.
we need to look at it like from that perspective, that right now, when your child is young or when you are early in your marriage, it might be something very small. You can fix it and it's going to be cured. But if you wait 1 year to 5 years, 10 years, then it's going to be a major issue. That concludes our time for tonight. Alhamdulillah, it was really an honor and a blessing to have you on. And there was a lot of gems, gems of knowledge that you shared. So I just wanted to thank you. And I think everyone really made use of your knowledge and your experiences. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you for providing the opportunity. It was an honor to be here, and may Allah inshallah bless you all. The last things I can say, inshallah, is just Trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and add into your knowledge. Don't be afraid of asking questions from right sources and resources and questions, and then you have get in touch with those that can help you.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Sayed. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we will be continuing with these podcasts. So every 2 weeks or so, we bring on a guest scholar and we discuss different issues. And alhamdulillah, I think this was our 4th or 5th podcast that we've been having. And inshallah, we will be continuing. So inshallah, keep tuned. If you would like noorcollective.org, you can add yourself to our mailing list and you will get regular updates. We also have social media accounts on Facebook, as well as on Telegram, on WhatsApp, inshallah. So inshallah, we'll be continuing with these programs. Sayed, I just wanted to ask if you could finish this program with a dua, please.
Please, this is your turn.
No, please.
No, I insist, please.
No, I insist, really,
بسم الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم لنا اللهم أجمعين. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, we ask you sincerely, hasten the dhuhr of our Imam Mahdi. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, let us be among those who are active in the path of the zuhur of our Imam. Ya Allah, help our youth, our children, make them successful in dunya wal akhirah. Do not let anyone from our generation be against the path of Islam, Quran, and Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, we do everything we can. The result and guidance is from you. Ya Allah, you take care of our children. You add into our knowledge. You guide us towards and through the best way of life. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, those who have hajat and requests, give them khair hajat. Those who are under difficulties, for the sake of Ahlul Bayt, provide opportunities for the freedom. Ya Allah, those who are sick, cure them all at this moment. Those who are dealing with this current situation, those who are in the front line, our nurses, doctors, specifically mu'mineen and mu'minat of them. Ya Allah, keep them pure, keep them healthy, and inshallah away from this and give them sawab and ajr. Those who passed away, send the thawab to their soul, inshallah. Rahimallahu man yaqra al-Fatiha. Thank you so much.